The quiet owner. She stepped into the lobby of the Langston Regent Hotel without fanfare or flourish. The morning sun filtered through the enormous windows, catching the thousands of crystal strands dripping from the chandelier above like a frozen waterfall. Velvet ropes curled like serpents toward the front desk, where well-trained bellhops in black vests and starched white shirts moved like clockwork, smooth and precise. She didn't carry designer luggage or wear a tailored coat. Her shoes were sensible, worn-down flats scuffed at the toe. Her slacks were ironed, though clearly aged, and her grey blouse was plain cotton. The canvas tote on her shoulder sagged with the weight of whatever was inside. At the front desk, a woman named Kristen barely concealed her skepticism behind a practiced smile. She looked the guest up and down, eyes catching on the shoes first, then drifting up to the unfitted blouse. Housekeeping staff clock in through the service entrance, Kristen said, brushing invisible lint from the counter. I'm not staff, the woman replied evenly. Her voice was soft, but controlled like someone who had long since mastered the art of remaining calm under pressure. She raised her phone and displayed a digital reservation clear, confirmed, and prepaid. Kristen didn't bother looking. She turned to whisper something to a suited concierge standing nearby. The concierge chuckled and adjusted his tie. When she turned back, Kristen's smile had been reattached tense at the edges. I'm afraid that reservation was flagged, she said. One moment. A man in a sharp navy jacket approached, the gold badge on his lapel reading Director of Guest Services. His cologne was subtle, but expensive. He had the kind of smile that promised help but offered none. Can I assist you? He asked, glancing briefly at her canvas tote. I'm here to check in, she repeated, displaying her confirmation again. He glanced at the screen. Ah, yes. There seems to be a problem with this booking. He tapped something on his tablet. This room isn't ready, and unfortunately, we are over capacity today due to the Global Leaders Forum. Our executive suites are currently reserved for premium clients. I hope you understand. I made this reservation 2 months ago. Paid in full, she replied, still calm. Of course, he said, dismissively. But something must have gone wrong with the system. He offered a thin smile. We may have a room on the lower floors. Smaller, no lounge access or breakfast. Or, if you prefer, we can refund the stay in full and cancel. I'm not asking for an upgrade, she said plainly. I'm asking for the room I reserved. Do you need help calling someone? Kristen asked, leaning closer. A sponsor, maybe? The woman blinked once. Excuse me? A few feet away, a man in a grey pinstripe suit, standing by the concierge desk, laughed into his phone. Yeah, someone's trying to sneak into the Langston, he said. She looks like she walked straight out of a laundromat commercial. He looked in her direction and smirked. The manager heard him but said nothing. He said again, more forcefully, I'm going to ask you to step aside. Or, she asked softly. A uniformed security officer was already striding toward her. He was tall and square-shouldered, with a radio on his belt and the words Guest Safety Supervisor stitched into his chest. His expression was tight, unreadable. We've had complaints, he said. From whom, it wasn't clear. No guests had spoken up. I need you to step outside while we resolve this. She didn't move. My reservation is valid, she said. Check your system again. The manager sighed. This isn't about paperwork, he said, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. Look around. We are hosting dignitaries and board members. CEOs, ambassadors. This is a delicate week. We can't afford confusion. The words were soft. Polished. Poisonous. The security guard stepped closer. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Guests began to glance over. Two stood near the staircase, watching. A phone was lifted recording, perhaps. She stayed still, silent. That was when the guard reached for her. He didn't grab her. He didn't need to. He took her elbow in a rehearsed, almost polite manner, as though she were a noise complaint to be removed quietly. As he guided her toward the exit, her foot slipped slightly on the polished marble. Her canvas bag tilted. A notebook tumbled out, its spine cracking as it hit the floor. No one moved to pick it up. At the door, the manager called after her. "We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone whose behavior or appearance disrupts the guest experience." She didn't turn around. She stepped through the revolving door and vanished into the street. Inside, the hotel returned to its rhythm. Bellhops returned to carts. Kristen leaned toward the concierge and whispered something that made him laugh again. The manager turned and muttered, "Check if we can block her card." No one noticed the notebook still on the floor, black leather, corner stamped in gold foil, RJS. Outside, the wind tugged at her blouse. Cars roared past. Her hair had come loose from its tie. She sat down on a bench across the street and took out her phone. Her face betrayed no emotion. She looked neither surprised nor wounded. She had expected this. She tapped a contact labeled Elias. The phone rang once. "They escorted me out," she said when he answered. "Which hotel?" "The Langston Regent." A pause. "Are you hurt?" "No. I'm on my way." She ended the call. Across the street, the hotel gleamed with glass and arrogance. She didn't look back at it. Not once. At 11:13 a.m., 3 sleek black SUVs pulled up to the hotel. From each stepped a man in a tailored suit, dark sunglasses, and discreet earpieces. Guests turned their heads. Then, from the third SUV, a tall figure stepped out. Black suit. Silver at his temples. A presence like thunderclouds. Elias Jameson didn't pause for directions. He walked into the hotel lobby like he had built the floor himself. Because, in a sense, he had. Kristen saw him first. She was in the middle of typing a passive-aggressive email when her fingers froze. Her breath caught. That facetched scene in Business Week, in the framed lobby plaque for major investors, in the quarterly letters from the hotel board. He wasn't just important. He was untouchable. Elias didn't wait. "Where's your general manager?" he asked, stopping at the front desk. Kristen blinked. "He's, upstairs meeting with the finance delegation. Tell him Elias Jameson is here." She didn't move. He looked at the security guard who had handled his wife. The guard's mouth parted slightly. His posture stiffened. A junior manager sprinted from the hallway. "Mr. Jameson," he said breathlessly. "We weren't told. What a surprise." "I don't give notice," Elias said. "I give equity." "Where is Christopher?" "Coming now." Behind them, one of Elias's assistants handed him a slim leather folio. He flipped it open, scanned its contents, and nodded once. The marble floor had gone quiet. Christopher Langley, the general manager, rushed in moments later, adjusting his tie with trembling fingers. "Mr. Jameson, Siri had no idea you were visiting. Your staff dragged my wife out of this hotel less than 2 hours ago," Elias said evenly. Christopher paled. "Sir, if there must have been a mix-up." She showed ID. "Had a reservation. Your team decided she didn't belong." "If I hadn't been informed, what would you have done? Sent a fruit basket?" The guard stepped back. Kristen looked down at her keyboard. "I have footage," Elias continued. "Audio. Her phone call is timestamped. And, for reference, 10 years of controlling shares in this property, shares your staff apparently forgot. Christopher stammered. Mr. Jameson, I. Elias raised a hand. I want every employee involved in that incident assembled in the 40th floor boardroom. 10 minutes. No delays. He turned without another word. The boardroom had been designed for billion-dollar conversations. Velvet seats. Dark wood table. Walls of glass overlooking the skyline. Now, it was quiet. Christopher stood near the head of the table, collar damp. Kristen sat near the windows, gripping her notepad as if it might shield her. The guards sat stiffly, eyes averted. The elevator chimed. Elias entered first. Behind him came the woman in the grey blouse. Her slacks were creased now, her shoes still scuffed. Her canvas bag was slung over one shoulder. Her gaze was clear. Collected. No one dared to speak. Elias faced the table. Say her name. Silence. I said, say her name. Kristen hesitated. To think she was? You didn't ask, Elias said. Because you didn't care. He turned to his wife. Do you want to speak first? She shook her head. I'll speak last. Elias turned back. This is my wife, Renata Jameson. Co-founder of Jameson Hart Ventures. The architect of this hotel's digital overhaul. She designed the systems you use to process every guest that walks through those doors. Her work kept this hotel afloat during the last recession, and you dragged her out because she didn't meet your dress code. Christopher opened his mouth, but Elias slid the folder across the table. These are termination notices. Effective immediately. Kristen's face went grey. The moment you laid a hand on her, your contract's ended. You just didn't know it yet. Renata stepped forward. Her voice, when she spoke, was even and composed. I arrived with a paid reservation, ID, and a confirmation email. I didn't ask for anything extra. Just a key to the room I booked. She looked at Kristen. You laughed at me. Called me a disruption. Let a stranger mock me in front of your desk. You assumed I didn't belong here because of my shoes. My bag. My blouse. She looked at the guards. You put hands on me. Gently, but firmly. Like I was a problem to be handled quietly. You didn't ask questions. You didn't listen. You judged. Her tone sharpened. You failed not because I'm important, but because you assumed I wasn't. She reached into her bag and set the notebook on the table, the same one they had left on the marble floor. This notebook contains a proposal for a corporate initiative. A plan to invest in leadership training for our partner properties. She paused. It's going to the Wynwood Grand instead. Their manager offered me the penthouse and their full support before I'd even hung up. Christopher's knees buckled slightly. Mrs. Jameson, please, we have contracts. Not anymore, she replied. Elias added, by tomorrow morning, this story will be on every platform. His assistant reappeared in the doorway. Footage's been released, he said. Media outlets picked it up already. Billionaire's wife evicted from her own hotel. It's trending. Renata looked around the room one last time. You should have just checked me in. The press did the rest. By sundown, guests were checking out in silence. Luggage wheels echoed across marble floors. The phones rang endlessly. On social media, a grainy clip of Renata walking beside Elias in the boardroom racked up millions of views. The caption read, "She came in wearing flats. She left owning the floor." And by the next morning, The Langston Regent was a headline, a hashtag, and a cautionary tale. Renata sat at the kitchen counter of her townhouse, hair in a bun, slippers on her feet, pouring herself tea. "No one will learn," Elias said from the doorway. "No," she replied softly. "But the ones watching will." She tucked her notebook back into her bag, slipped on her scuffed flats, and smiled faintly. "Next time," she said, "I won't be as gentle." And with that, she walked out the door not just as the woman who was underestimated, but as the woman who rewrote the rules.